All right, so I'm out here helping one of my teammates on this next project. They did the boom to stick up there last couple days. He's gonna work on this stick end today. I gotta work on this bucket, but this thing was turned around. I'm gonna get this thing where I can walk straight back and forth to it, not around all this other stuff, these landmines we've got out here. So let me get this thing spun around. We'll go over what this needs and how we're gonna approach fixing it. All right, this machine, it's got about 5,700 hours somewhere in there, and you can see there's very little face left here. Normally this is a double bevel, like what's down here. I would hold the O-ring for assembly. Same thing would be on this collar here. This is what they call a slack adjuster. This is very common in Florida with the sand that we have. The idea is you can remove these shims, and when you tighten these bolts on this collar, it presses against the back side of this hat and forces it this way, closes a gap in your stick. But at this point, with this kind of wear, it's never gonna make up any of the slack. I mean, it'll make up some, but. So I'm gonna start taking this thing apart. I gotta get this out of here, get my torch out, burn all the grease out of these holes, clean these things up, get set up. The customer's bringing the collar. We've got a face that we made for this that plug welds on. When we get that out here, it's coming with Randy. When that's out here, I'll show you that and how that'll go and help save us a lot of time. Because if we had to weld all this up, you're probably a day right there just putting that material back. So we're gonna do it a little different, speed this thing up. This stick's just as bad. I mean, if not a lot worse. I hardly ever see them where they're worn past, you know, the factory bevel that's on here, and this one's well beyond that. That's crazy. Don't see that too much. See, this is typical here. It's just flush. And if they're like this, it doesn't take us a lot of time to face this off and put AR plates on. That's what we like to do. We'll put plug welded plates on these things and make up that difference. They last a lot longer because they're harder, obviously, and they're a lot more user friendly, especially for the field technicians that don't have the capabilities of this machine work. If this thing's just got a plug welded face, not only do you replace where the seal sits every time you change that face, but with the plug welds, you just gouge them off. You can take a torch and wash them off, clean up what little weld was there, slide the new one on the pin with the seal, and go right back to it. No, it's going to be a good day when there's concrete and the bolt pattern before you even get going. Let me see how I can get that out of there. So I like to use a torch, get all this excess grease that I can off. I may wipe them with brake clean, depending on whether or not I pre-cut them. But the other advantage to using this torch, like today, it's a little cooler out. You see this thing sweating. Gives us maybe kind of a preheat. When we go in there with that solid wire welding, that's short arc. We don't run that thing really hot. It's not like a spray transfer weld. It's short arc. It has to be for it to weld as long as it does, without burning up all the small consumables. But I'll do this here, clean these things up best I can. See where it goes from there. All right, so kind of preheated these holes, burned the grease off of the stuff. My centering cone wasn't big enough for the hole outside of this collar, so I'm actually put this thing back in here, and I'll use these centering cones now to center this thing up. I'll pull measurements off those bottom holes and off each side of this bar to the bucket. I'll spin this thing around where I can use this keyway to measure off of, get really accurate measurements. I always want it, you know, where my tape hits flat, and then I can measure to this. If you're out here in no man's land or this thing's rotated around like this, it's gonna be hard to get good accurate measurements. The holes are typically easy. You just put your tape against the bar and measure to the edge of that hole. So once I get this thing set up here, I'll go through that with you before I put the bearings on. All right, so I've cleaned the grease off of my torch. Put a little heat to these holes. It's a little cool out this morning, everything's sweating. Took care of that. Put my centering cones in the center. I had to put this collar back in because my cone wasn't big enough for this hole. So this is just a little easier for me than using that XY tool for setting the bearings up. Put the collar in here. And what I've done, I've come around on the ends of this bar and pulled measurements to the bottom of it. Make sure that tape's flat on the bucket on both sides. Pull measurements to the bottom. Make sure this bar is square and level. And then measured from the bar to the hole down there, to the other two holes. So now that all that's right, we know it's where we want it, I can go ahead and slide my bearings on here and weld them off. Randy's over here getting these old bushings out. These holes probably won't make it. Not because he's cut them, but when the bushing gets that thin, typically it stretches this hole. But we'll see, we'll check it. I'm over here set up, doing some pre-cut, clean this thing up. I'm gonna have to take a little more than that, but if I do, I'll set back up. We'll do the same thing here, and then I'll get the welder put in here, start welding these holes back. Get back with you. And he's gonna get these bushings out of here. So there's the bushing out. Got to cut them in two pieces like that when this lip's rolled over, because it grabs that bushing, you just can't overcome it. So this thing's making its way through this hole here. Randy's got his bushings out over there, cutting nice. I want to say this is about a 7-inch hole. I don't remember exactly. I got the plans here now, so I'll get that thing unboxed and measure it. Once it's done here, I'm going to move over to this side and do the same thing, pre-cut this so I can weld it. So the way we're checking these holes is just with the bushing. A lot of times easier in trying to get accurate measurements, and you can see that's not going to cut it. The reason that those holes are so loose, and you see that lip in the back, when they let these bushings wear, that pin starts to hammer inside of that bushing, and it just stretches the bottom of these holes, believe it or not. So that's where we're at. He's going to wind up line boring this stick in as well. We'll get back with it. So we got this side pre-cut. A little bit at the top, I'll clean that by hand and section weld that area. And it's going to be so far from my fusion zone when I cut my finish pass that I'm not too worried about it. I just need really good fusion up there so that it doesn't delaminate later. Over here, looks like it's hitting all the way around just about, with just a little bit of a pre-cut, so that's nice. I got a little area that I'll have to address. I may just take a bigger pre-cut. This isn't that big a hole to re-weld. Randy's getting set up over there. He's going to hand weld that face. Now that all this stuff's cleaned up a little better, you can see it. He's going to hand weld this face. Got a lip. That lip's where we want to be before we install these AR face plates. So he's going to fill all this in. Over here, we're just going to wipe this clean with a facing tool. We'll probably hand weld these holes since he's already having to pull all that stuff out. So we'll go with that. Old robot Randy's over here making away. Look at that. Oh man. I'd pay to be able to weld like that. I'd pay to be able to weld like that. I'm over here doing my kind of welding. I had to put an extension in this automated welding wand here so I can reach across and hit this outside hole. So I'm gonna get this thing set up. I just come in here, from a die grinder and cleaned up this area that was low, I'll either section weld this first, or I'll weld the whole hole all the way around, and if I've got an area I see is not going to clean up, I'll just section weld that. If I do it that way, it may save me a little bit of welding time, because it's about this wide now. If I weld it first, there's probably only going to be a little area, if any, that doesn't clean up about this wide. So that's probably what I'll do. Same over here. I got a little bit of an area that didn't hit all the way around just from the holes being 2 eggs. So no big deal. We can deal with that. Randy's the one with the job over there today. I'm just out here supervising. We're out here getting done today, boys. Got a lot to do, but we gonna do it. This is where it's at. Nobody around. No one to bother us. We're out here doing what we do best. Wearing it out. Randy, what you doing over there? Man, you ever gonna stop welding? Hell no. I got this hole here wrapped up. I'm welding anyhow. Move on to this one. And Randy's still over there getting after them faces. He's got a lot of welding. Nothing missing. A lot of material. The wind's a little vicious today. You can see I'm using one of my shirts here to block some of it. Let's do what we got to do out here. It's beautiful out though. Weather's nice. Not too hot. That's where we're at. While I'm just standing here, got a little time, talk about these machines that we run. These are the Trailblazer 325 EFIs. And I cannot say anything bad about them. We've got 6 or 7 of them. And the only issues we've ever had is that display on the front there, the digital numbers here. They're made up of like little short lines, segments. And we've had those burn out to the point where you can't even read your voltage or amperage up there. But every one of them got warrantied out with no questions asked. We had one with an oil seal that failed on the engine side, but other than that, absolutely hands down what I would have for this job. We gouge off of them, we do heavy dual shield welding with them, and they just keep going. Keep the oil changed, keep the air filters changed and the brushes every 1,000 hours. And I believe they'll last you a long time. With this automated welding, these consumables are fairly small, so you can fit them in these holes. So it is very important to clean these really well between passes. Make sure you cool this stuff back down and treat it with some type of a weld spatter. I typically would use the ceramic stuff. I don't have it with me. But this one's done. Looks good, looks pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and weld this larger hole here. This thing is pushing 7 inches, I believe. I'm gonna get this thing going, get back to it. So I finished the welding, both holes. Got my numbers written down. I'm gonna take my first measurement here with my snap gauge and see how close we are to cleaning up. Hopefully this will clean up with these single passes in here, but we're gonna find out. I got that noisy going. What are you doing over here, Randy?
Getting set up to swap some faces off.
There we go.
Then we gotta get them holes cut out.
That's why you got these big long
Yes,
bolts
sir.
on there and stuff, so you can fit that facing tool in it.
Yes, sir. We're gonna try to get it knocked out today.
You're gonna get it. You're gonna get it. Look at that. Gosh, damn. Hurts my feelings. Hurts my feelings. I'm gonna get back over here where my feelings ain't getting hurt. So we're over there doing a rough cut, but I'm gonna swap over to this tool here, help support my tool in the bar a little further out to reduce some of that noise that you're hearing. That high frequency chatter actually makes marks in the hole ever so slightly, but the finish just won't be that smooth. So I'll switch over to that once this pass here is done. See what we get out of that. So I made my rough cut. Where I'm at versus where I need to be is 176. So I've got a total of 88. I'm gonna take an 80 cut right here, set this thing, zero this out, and then I'll adjust this bit till this thing sweeps around here and hits 80. I'll run that through there to just leave a nice little small cut for my finish, so I get my finish looking better than that. I don't like that. $1 bills flying off of there. Look at that. Look at that. What do you think about that, Ray?
I think it's got a crack in it.
Got a crack?
Yeah, see where that top?
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
What the hell's going on, Randy? What's that crack, Randy?
You see it?
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
I see it. This noisy over here. You didn't know we we're going to be famous, did you, Randy?
Hey, that's it, buddy.
Look at that. Look
Woo!
at that. Boy.
You get no better than that.
Man. Thing of beauty. Got one going over there. We got a little bit of a mess here. We're going to have to address at some point. We got the first hole finished up. Turned out nice, as always. Doing a rough cut over here. Got about 20th out of clip after that. But it's also going to clean up. I like it. I like it. So what we got going on now?
Making the final cut.
On this last side.
Yes, sir.
Look at that.
Woo! Been running pretty smooth for me today.
That's right.
It's hard to beat this facing head, I can tell you that.
You mean you don't want to do it with a grinder again like we used to?
No, sir.
Come on, man.
That's a rough dose.
You know, breathing all that dust just makes you that bigger a man, doesn't it?
That's right.
Look at it. We
I
got.
don't want to be a man if that's what it takes.
We done got spoiled out here, guys. We done got spoiled. Look at that. Jeez. Man. Beautiful. So the holes are finished up here. Randy's faces are done. I'm gonna face this off. We got something nice flat to place that face on that we built. That 1/2-inch double bevel piece of AR. But again, like I say, I want to flatten this thing out. We can't put it over this mess. It's got a bevel in the center. It's higher in places. It's real thin here. So we'll do some facing here and get that straightened out. So we got this facing head going. This thing really tells on it, shows you how far out these things actually are. Get up, set up and going like this. So see how it's turned out here. So I'm done with one pass. I'm basically gonna take this whole face off here, make it flush with the boss itself. So let's see if this whole girl will do it. It's quite a cut there for her. I measured that, it's about 110th hour or so. So let's see what happens. It's down to it. Alright, here we go. Starting to get into it now. Say it's a little aggressive here for a facing tool. Gotta do what we gotta do, right? See what she'll do. Look at that. Ripping some of that old stuff off there. Busting at the seams. Got old Randy over there. Old Randy's still over there getting it. Look at that cat. Look at that. Golly. That hurt my feelings and the neighbors there, I'll tell you. That's impressive. One thing I will say, these facing tools do not play. Look at that cut. Unreal. I'll get this face wiped off of here. I'll show you guys that bevel plate that we made to replace this. It's since worn away. I don't quite have the travel here on this facing tool to make it the whole way, so I've got the bit placed in this angle hole, 45-degree hole, running a straight insert tool. I'm gonna move it around to here, and then I'll put that little 45-degree insert tool in. I'll run it back up, pick up here where I left off, and continue down. Ain't no joke. No joke. Last pass here on the face. I think I had 3 passes here, so not bad, not bad. Randy's over there putting his bushings in. Got the slack adjuster in. Get this pin test fitted. Maybe get this face on here. About to call it a day. It's been a long one. Right at 10 hours. Time we left the shop right now. See where we at. So while Randy's over there welding that face on, I'll show that to you. But here's the ones for the stick. They accept this grease seal into the face and shove it back there. Just got to make sure they're tight. So on our stick here we had 17 inches 410 thousandths, and on that bucket we wound up with 17 inches 437 thousandths. So you have to make sure that these are flat against what was machined. There's only 27 thousandths total between this stick and that bucket, and you got to divide that by 2. So there's not going to be any room for shims. That's what the customer prefers, and that's what the customer gets. But I'll show you when he's done over there what that looks like. So here's the face installed over here. We put this bevel on the back side, just like the factory, so that it'll hold the O-ring in place while you stab the stick down in here. And then on the inside, we make these fit the seal as well, because you don't want that pin as this hole wears riding on this plate and breaking these plug welds. But these things are going to be easy to locate in the future if they ever want to remove this, and easy to remove this entire plate. We've got these things on the shelf at the shop where they can just buy them and replace them. They can do that themselves. They don't have to get us involved. But that's how that works. There's the hat collar, slack adjuster, and again this bucket's 17,437. It's just about a wrap, Randy. What you doing toting that pin around, Randy? Ray's leaving us. Bye, Ray. Well, it's not done. It's near done.
This old dude likes to fight.
Yes, it does. We got to address this H-link tomorrow, bushings. Put all this stuff back together. And then it'll be done. But it's a really good day today.
Yes, it was. Very productive.
And for y'all that don't know, this is Randy. My right-hand man right here. The man with a plan. Robot Randy. We call him that because welds like a robot. I ain't lying. All in a day's work. It's normally where we're found. watching the sunset in Central Florida on a job site somewhere. So, hey.
Beautiful day for the books.
That's it. Y'all check us out on the next one.